Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tacoma Cyclist. I am the Tacoma Cyclist, and with me as always is my trusty sidekick, the Boogeyman. Today we're going to be talking about riding in the winter. This is part one of a two-part series. Today we're going to talk about what to wear when riding in the winter, and in part two of the series we're going to talk about what you need to do to your bike to ride in the winter. We're actually all dressed up because we just got back from a bike ride. And it's the middle of December in Seattle, so it's cold and it's wet. So we know what to do when riding in the winter because we do it all winter long. In fact, while you may have seen our videos about Zwifting during the winter time for training, the reality is neither the Boogeyman or I really care for Zwift for our regular training. It's good when you have no other alternatives, maybe if there's snow on the ground and the roads aren't very clear. But honestly, it gets kind of boring after a little while. We set our bikes up in this room. You can see the trainers are right here. Maybe you can see them off frame here. But you know, we got some TVs around so we can watch some TVs, but we don't really feel like we're getting the best out of our winter training when we're sitting here on trainers in this room. So we both just got back from a ride, a nice December morning ride in Seattle. Very, very cold. It was in the lower 40s, upper 30s at some points. Pretty wet, although it wasn't raining today. It rains all the time here. It's the Pacific Northwest, so we got pretty wet no matter what because there was road spray, cars spraying as they went by. But we certainly see our fair share of getting wet during the wintertime as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what to wear, and the Boogeyman and I are both wearing some slightly different things. Both work quite well, but we're going to talk about what it is to what you should wear while you're riding to keep yourself not only dry, but also warm, so you don't get sick from being exposed to the cold weather and the wet weather for too long. Overall, you don't want to be out of commission for a couple weeks just because you chose the wrong thing to wear. You don't want to be miserable on a ride. It doesn't do you any good. You're not going to train to the best of your ability at that point. So let's start with the things that the Boogeyman and I have in common with what we're wearing. Both of us are wearing long tights that are fleece lined. But these tights in general, they don't actually keep out water, so just bear that in mind. If it gets really, really wet, your legs are going to get really, really wet. So that's the one thing we have in common. The other thing we have in common is some headwear. Now in this case we didn't wear any headwear, and honestly we probably didn't want to. We did a lot of climbing. It was a 52-mile ride and about 5,000 feet of climbing. So we were getting plenty warm on the route. We didn't need to go overboard. But headwear is essential. We both have a couple different ways to do our headwear. He's looking for his hat. He doesn't have it with him. But little scullies like this that are fleece lined, little caps like this, they fit under your helmet, and it does a pretty good job of keeping the heat in at your head. There's studies that say, of course, that you lose a lot of heat through your head. There's studies that say you don't. I can tell you from our perspective, having some headwear on between your helmet and your skull actually does a little bit to keep you warm. So we opted for not having them this time. Whereas on really cold rides, 30s and below, we typically wear these. The vents that are blowing air on your head make it kind of cold. The next thing that we both have somewhat in common, but this is actually where we start to differ, is our upper body wear. So we're both wearing, and I'm going to let the Boogeyman stand up here. I'm not going to stand up because I'm too tall. The Boogeyman's going to unzip his jacket here, and I'm going to unzip mine, and then he's going to unzip the top half of his jersey here. And what we both are doing is we're both wearing base layer. Base layer is absolutely important. It keeps the sweat from pooling up on your skin, and it wicks that sweat away. Sweat is a natural way for your body to cool off, and when you're going on these hard efforts and hard climbs, when your sweat sits on the surface of your skin and doesn't get wicked away, it makes your body very, very cold. So when you get to the top of the hill, you may feel extremely hot, but when that cold air hits the sweat that's been pooling up on your skin, it's going to make you extremely cold. So a little bit of base layer. The Boogeyman is wearing REI's base layer, their brand. It's a merino wool base layer. Reason we went with this is because it's kind of hard to find base layer in junior sizes. That's cycling specific. And the reality is merino wool is, for camping, hiking, whatever, but it also does great for cycling. It naturally wicks moisture. In my case, I have a cycling specific base layer on. No significant difference. In fact, I've asked Santa to get me some of this because I'm kind of jealous about what the Boogeyman has. So we both have base layer on, and then we both have a traditional jersey on. The key here is we both have layers going on. So if we get overly hot, we can take a layer off. If we get more cold, we can put that layer back on. So again, base layer and then a regular jersey, nothing big here. We certainly, even though it was in the lower 40s today, the Boogeyman and I actually both got kind of warm. He took off his gloves, and he actually, you can see if I still have them on me, I do not, but I don't have any gloves on me. I took his gloves because we had stopped to eat, and he didn't need them anymore, so after that, his hands were perfectly fine. Blood was pumping to him, he was perfectly warm. So now, in this case, the jacket that the Boogeyman is wearing is actually a rain jacket, and it does a pretty good job of keeping rain off the body, although if it's really, really driving rain, it's not going to do a fantastic job because these aren't sealed zippers, they're not taped seams. So what's going to happen is water's going to get in here as well. But it does a good job of keeping the rain off of his body for the most part. It keeps the wind off of his body, and it's convertible too, so you can take the sleeves off. This is really good if it's in the mid-50s perhaps. In Seattle we can get mid-70s in the winter. We can get 20s, teens in the winter. So it's nice to be able to alter what you have while you're wearing it. Now the key to all of this, most of it we bought at a local bike shop because that way you can try it on and you can see it, feel it, try it before you actually commit to it. I like to get stuff on clearance though. You know, you go to a local bike shop in the middle of the summer and they have some jackets sitting there, they're going to be on a pretty low price. And that's exactly what we've done here. So we've got most of our cold weather gear here was purchased locally because we can try it, feel it, see how it works, and if we don't like it, we can take it back. Sure, you can do all of that with your online vendors, and there's nothing wrong with them, but you'll have to buy it, try it, ship it back. It's kind of a hassle. So I like to go with local guys as much as possible. So again, the Boogeyman's going to go ahead and sit down, and then we're going to look at one other essential. The Boogeyman has his, and I have mine. And these are shoe covers. So in a previous review, we did look at some toe covers, and they do a great job of keeping your toes warm. What they don't do, they don't keep your feet dry. Now, they have holes on the bottoms. If you haven't used shoe covers before, you're still going to get wet potentially, okay? The water can still come in through the bottom of the shoes, but this is so your cleats still work and so you don't destroy them when you're walking around. Your heel and your cleats come through the bottom. These are wind stopper material. They do a great job of keeping water off your feet, and they do a great job keeping wind off your feet. If your feet are warm and dry, you are happy. If your feet are cold and wet, you are miserable. So, one of the most important things to invest in right here. You can always add layers. It doesn't have to be cycling specific layers to your upper body. Keeping your core warm is very important, so layers here. If you have a regular jersey and even just layer up a wool sweater or a couple cotton t-shirts, you're going to do better off on your upper body, and then a jacket layer that's going to keep the water off of you and the wind off of you. But on your feet, you've got to keep them dry. So we start with, again, wind stopper, high quality shoe covers. Spend a little extra money here. This is where it's important. And both the Boogeyman and I are wearing smart wool socks, which do a great job of keeping water from getting saturated. Now, if your feet get soaked, there's nothing your socks are going to do, but smart wool still retains its heat qualities after they've gotten wet. So if you're riding, your feet get soaking wet, they're not going to turn into icicles. If it's in the mid-20s, there's nothing you can do about that. Have a change of socks ready to go when you get back. Now the last couple things the Boogeyman actually and both of us have in common are the accessories that we have when we're riding as well. First and foremost, glasses are important. Now in this case you can see the Boogeyman's wearing his tinted glasses and I have my tinted glasses. When it's gray, rainy outside, having some glasses, any glasses, are better than nothing. If you can go with non-tinted, clear glasses or photochromatic, or however you pronounce that, glasses that will allow you to have clear vision, because sometimes it gets a little darker, then that's going to be great. But road spray, road grime, when it gets into your eyes when you're riding 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour downhill, it'll make it so you can't see. Wear protective glasses. They're smart. I can tell you for a fact, and we'll have a video about glasses here shortly, but I can tell you for a fact, the wreck that I had in June, the only reason that I can see out of my left eye is because I was wearing glasses. My face hit a tree at about 30 miles an hour, and I can tell you, if I wasn't wearing those glasses, I wouldn't be looking out of my left eye anymore. So I can never stress enough the importance of safety glasses. The other thing the Boogeyman and I have in common are gloves. Now, of course, everybody should wear gloves while they're cycling. Your hands are going to get really cold. They're the first things that get exposed to the wind and to the rain, and they need to stay dry. So getting a pair of waterproof gloves is very important. We typically both ride with 2 pairs of gloves in the wintertime. One lighter pair and one heavier pair. The lighter pair is great. Once you start getting moving, you can take the heavier pair off, put the lighter pair on, because at that point your hands, they've warmed up a little bit. And you don't want hot, sweaty hands. So a lighter pair of gloves is fine. But take that heavier pair with you too. When you get on a long descent, we've done some high pass mountain climbing where we did 75 miles, 11,000 feet of climbing, and as you're coming back down the next day, or as you're coming back down the pass, and you're going 40 miles an hour for 15 miles, and you don't have thick gloves, the Boogeyman can tell you, he couldn't feel his hands at the end of that ride. And that's not good. When you take them off and your hands are gray and you've started losing feeling in your hands, that's not good. You're really close to getting some very bad things happening to your fingers. So wear good gloves. Spend extra money on good gloves. Get cycling specific gloves because they're typically designed to be either waterproof or highly water resistant. They can be lined. They can be very, very warm. They can be very, very good at protecting your hands. And of course, if you wreck, the last thing you want to do is drag these across the pavement at 25 miles an hour. It doesn't feel good. So that is our take on what it is that you should wear in winter when you're cycling and you're training. Again, when you're comfortable, you're going to ride well. When you're not comfortable, you're going to ride badly. So stay comfortable, go out and get some quality gear for winter riding, and it will pay dividends. Okay, thanks for visiting us again at the Tacoma Cyclist. And be sure to, as always, like the video below. If you have any comments about this video or any questions or maybe any suggestions for what we should do next, go ahead and put it in the comments below as well. Share this with your friends, and as always, hit subscribe as well. Thanks.